And I think it's a good moment to now move on to the open call benefits. For that, I would like to welcome Aneta, who is a project manager at Funding Box, Danielle Semper, who is the director of CRAI, and Nicola Rebora, who is senior researcher at the CIMA Foundation. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Aneta to the stage.
As already Ip mentioned, the first open call for regions and communities started the 8th of December 2023 and will be open by the 8th of March 2024. So still there is a lot of time to apply to the first open call. The main question which we received by emails by the help desk is that who are we actually looking for the first open call of the CLIMAAX project? So firstly, we are looking for the public bodies. So it includes regional and local authorities, municipalities, and public agencies. But you need to have a mandate to develop climate-related multi-risk assessments and risk management plans in a given region or community. What does it mean to have a mandate? Mandate means that you are authorized, you have the right to develop, implement climate-related multi-risk assessment and risk management plans in your region or community. The mandate can be bill of regulation, service charter, decree, status of the like, either publicly available or you can attach it to the application form. We are also looking for the non-profit legal entities representing a local regional community. It can be the community of people with social ties, shared values or interest, engaged in joint action, developing the activities in areas with vulnerability to climate change impacts and challenged by climate change adaptation. What is important, all of these communities and entities, they need to be legally formed before the open call started, so before the 8th of December 2023. Moreover, the entities have to be established in the EU member states and its overseas countries and territories, or Horizon Europe associated countries, and they are not affected by any EU restrictive measures. So those are the main eligible criteria. So firstly, who we are looking for, so public bodies and non-profit legal entities, and the country representation, so in general, EU member states, overseas countries, and Horizon Europe associated countries. What support is to be offered within the first open call of the CLIMAAX? So firstly, we are offering the support up to 300,000 euro lump sum. It depends which country you represent, and these numbers you can find in our documents, in the guide for applicants, in the frequently asked questions. So in those documents you can find the exact sum of money which is given to the country represented. Secondly, the multi-risk assessment toolbox. You can be given the access and support to use the multi-risk assessment toolbox. This support will include methodological guidance and the technical guidance. And we, of course, have some event participation, so we will be given access to the outreach and engagement events organized by CLIMAAX, intended to promote the shared learnings and mutual exchange through the project community of practice. Within the support program, we have 22 months of the program, and we have 3 phases plus the final payment. So you can see in the table how the percentage of total grant is given per each stage. So in general, the support program is related to the fixed lump sum, so we don't require any accounting documents to prove the cost incurred. However, we required deliverable to be submitted and approved by the committee. So if the documents are approved and validated, then the payment in relation to the specific milestone can be done. This is the quick open call timeline. So we are after the open call launch and the first webinar online on how to apply. Now the next webinar will be on 13th of February. So if after this session you will come up with more questions, you are invited to join this webinar. And the open call deadline is 8th of March at 5 p.m. Please don't wait until the last moment, because everything can happen, all of the technicalities can happen, so we invite you to apply a little bit earlier than the last moment. Evaluation process is predicted for the March and April, and the publication of the list of beneficiaries we predict for June 2024. After this publication, the beneficiaries will start the support program. Now I will guide you through our website, how to apply and how the application process looks like. So first of all, you need to sign up to the Funding Box portal, and here we will ask you just for your email, the username, the password, and then your account is created. When your account is created, this is the microsite to apply for. You can see in the middle the button apply now. But before, please read the documents. In the section read first. In the documents you can find the guide for applicants, frequently asked questions, application form, and of course some information about the webinars which were made before and which are coming in the future. The deadline, as I said before, this is the 8th of March at 5 Brussels time. And here is the button to apply to the open call. When you start a new application, you can add a contributor, so you can add as many people as you want to work together on the application. And those are the sections which we are asking you to fill in. We are asking for some basic information and the general information about the applicants. And then there are sections which are evaluated by the evaluators. So in the relevance section, we ask you for ambition, dimension, community engagement, European dimension. In the impact section, vulnerability to climate change impacts, limited resources, expected impact of the project implementation. And in the implementation section, we ask you for description of the team, some resources, implementation plan. In the section resources, we ask you for the budget prediction. During the application, if you have any questions, we invite you to ask for support. You can find the button Help Desk. In the Help Desk, this is the online website where you can ask your questions, and we, of course, have the email helpdesk.climax@fundingbox.com. If you use this email, we will directly answer your questions. If you want to know more about the CLIMAAX in general, this is also the button to go to the main project website. And of course, we invite you to join our social media where we publish all of the news related to the CLIMAAX project. Thank you very much, and we are waiting for your questions related to the open call application.
Thank you very much for that, Aneta. I think we do have some questions in the chat, so perhaps we can start with some questions about the open call. As promised earlier, let's start with Conrad's question saying, "Good morning, thank you very much for organizing the event. My question is, a public scientific institute, can we get involved in the project?"
It's a scientific institute. Yeah, I think so, yeah, you can apply to the project.
That is great news, and in any case, there is also a guide on the website, as we said earlier, so feel free to double check there, and if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to ask them in the chat now, or contact us in the dedicated website. We also have a question from Maximilian Holberg saying, hello, is it also possible for federal states to apply?
Yes, it's also possible to apply for federal states.
Okay, that is great. For now, I don't see any other questions in the chat, so feel free to keep them coming if you do have questions, because now is the moment to ask away. We are not that far from the deadline on 8 March, so it is really the time to shine and work on the applications. So feel free to ask away if you have questions. Feel free to ask them in the chat. We have another one coming in. 2 more questions. That's great. If a municipality has already estimated the subcontracting expenses and identified the subcontractor, for example, an SME, is it eligible to name this subcontractor in the application form?
Yes, you can include in the application form the information about the subcontractor. We don't have any limits for subcontracting in the application form. So if you need subcontracting, you can include it. You can include in the application form. It will be assessed, of course, by the evaluators. And it's really good that you have it before the start of the project.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that question from Evangelia. Then Christina also has a question. Are there opportunities for collaborating between regions that are awarded funds through the open call? How does CLIMAAX encourage knowledge sharing and collaboration among the selected regions?
So before the open call finished, it's not possible to collaborate between applicants. But after that, yeah, I think, I don't know, Nicola, Daniel, how about the collaboration between them?
I think that the open call is thought for single applicants. It's not thought for groups of applicants. Of course, if 2 applicants want to collaborate because there are neighbors, that's not a problem. But for the application, you cannot go multiple applicants inside a single application.
Thank you very much for answering that question. Perhaps a follow-up question for you. I was wondering, in case the applicant is accepted, could you please tell us how the CLIMAAX project ensures that the project maintains a coherence with the regional context, in the sense that how do you address these specific issues? What is the help that you will get if you participate? What is the next step if you get accepted as a participant?
Well, essentially the idea is that this is funding for making regions and communities. This is important, that can be also communities reduced than regional institutions start thinking about adaptation. So we will propose these ideas, conceptual framework, and then some tools to help you to first make first analysis, but also the call directly requests that the applicants think about to use their own data, because normally when you go to local and regional scale, you can have very valuable local data that can enhance the analysis and even the comprehension of which will be the impacts of the climate change on the hazards that affect you. And this is very important. This is key. This is a step that it is key, both in the evaluation, but also for the work we expect from the applicants.
Thank you very much for that. We have a number of questions also coming in the chat still, asking, the application form says, what resources, including team and/or external services and skills, do you have to effectively manage and lead? Provide evidence. What kind of evidence do you expect in this case?
I think that's what we are expecting is that your team, your region should be prepared to deal with what we have asked, and so we following and complying with the three phases approach. So that's why we ask for, let's say, the evidence about the team, because this will help us in understanding how is feasible the proposal and the proposed activities you are putting in the application.
Thank you very much for that. And another question coming in from Nora. Can you shed light on the criteria used to evaluate applications in the open call? What factors play a significant role in determining the suitability of a region or authority for participation?
So during my presentation, I told about 3 of the criteria that are evaluated by evaluators, and this is relevance, impact, and implementation. And inside of those, you can see some, I don't know if people can see the screen. Yeah. So you can see the ambition dimension, community engagement, European dimension, vulnerability, resources, expected impact of the project implementation, team resources implementation plan. So all of those 3 criteria are evaluated by evaluators, and each of the criterion you can receive up to 5 points, and then we count it as a ranking list. So yeah, this is what we are asking for.
Thank you very much. We also have a question. Do we need to attach the gender equality plan of a municipality to the application?
Yes, so you can attach as a document, or you can attach a link to the website where the gender equality plan is placed. So we just need a proof, but it can be in a different way.
Thank you very much. Another one, in case there is a climate risk assessment in a municipality, should we attach it? Is this evidence?
We don't ask for attaching this.
All right. Another question. Do we need to attach the mandate regulation in the application? Will this be a problem if it is in our national language?
It may be in the national language, but also it needs to be translated for us. So you have to then show us both in your language and in English language.
Thank you very much. Another question. Please describe the plan for implementing the required activities in 3 phases. Provide evidence for each one of the 3 phases. What kind of evidence do you expect in this case?
In this case, we expect that the applicants have well understood this 3 phases approach and show, as we ask evidence in what are the resources, the methodology, the pathway they will follow in fulfilling all the 3 phases. So this is already described in the scheme, but let's say we need a credible detail on how these activities will be performed.
Thank you very much, Nicola, for that. Another question. The funding is for 22 months. Is there a fixed time limit for starting and finishing the project?
Yes, so let me show you the table. So this is the table, and as you can see, each deliverable needs to be finished in the specific timeline. So the first one is month 6, the second one is month 18, and the last one is month 22. And there is also the final payment. This is the retention payment at the end of the whole climate project estimated September 2027. So this is the general timeline for your project, and you need to stick to those months. And you can see the grant, the percentage of the grant which you will receive after each of the milestone.
Thank you very much. We have another question from Conrad. When receiving funds, can we prepare the analysis and documents ourselves, or should we outsource them? Daniel?
I think that from a previous question of Conrad, we were not enough precise. A university cannot participate on the call. And this is something that probably in the first answer was not clear. But once the project is started, you can decide depending on the capacities. If you are a municipality or you are a unit that have the technical skills to do the analysis that represents understanding climate change scenarios, manipulating data to go to your region, link this with the hazards, you can do yourself, of course. That is not a problem, and this is what we wanted, that you prove, let me say, the credibility that you can do it with an explanation. It's not necessarily the CVs of the people in the unit, in the applicant, but at least explain that you have these skills. If not, we encourage to look for external support, and this is the role, for instance, for a university or an institution that do research, that can support these municipalities or communities doing the work because they have these skills when the applicant has not the skills. But it is not forced. It depends on the applicant institution.
Thank you very much for these clarifications, Daniel. There is another question about evidence about the team. Does that, for example, mean CVs? Evangelina wants to know.
No, I think that what we need is a statement that proves that they have the internal skills to do it, or they are ready to look for these skills outside outsourcing or subcontracting.
Thank you very much for that. Another follow-up question is, are the dates for month 1 and month 22 already fixed?
It will depend on the process of preparing the subcontract agreement. Once the selection is done, there is a contract that the applicant or the successful applicant will sign with the project. And this will be, depending on the institution, can be very quick or it can be a little bit more slowed. And then if there is an outsourcing or subcontracting, probably if the applicant is an authority, is a national, well, regional, but it is a public authority, will require a procedure for tendering or procurement, and this will probably impact on the starting point. But our idea is that for this first call, the applicants, successful applicants, can start between July and September, and we'll have 22 months to develop the activity.
All right, thank you very much for the clarifications. I think we answered all the questions in the chat for now. I would like to also mention that we have an extended Q&A on this topic after the regular session today. So please, if you come up with any questions in the meantime, feel free to ask them there. We have a couple of minutes left before the break, I would say. I was a bit of a harsh moderator earlier in the session, in the first session, and there was actually a question in the chat. So I was wondering if Anna is still online, if she would be able to answer that question for us. And the question was, it was mentioned that the implementation of the framework with the toolbox at regional and local levels were implemented. Can you share some practical scenarios or success stories illustrating how this was implemented and carried out?
but maybe others can complement. What we've been working on is developing a framework that is practical, is not just conceptual. It lays the foundations from a principles perspective. I think Michaela presented it very well, because obviously at the end of the day we're talking about consequences for people, decision making that have significant consequences, and at the same time we have to think about the high quality of the process. And within that framework we will be developing guidance on specific challenges. In particular, regions are facing the specific challenge of how climate change is affecting future impacts. So one area we'll be working on into your work using the toolbox. So analysis, but also view information on damage functions and so on to a particular case connect together. So it's one part of the process, but maybe somebody else would like to complement from there. Thanks, Gib.
Thank you very much, Anna. Perhaps Michaela or Datse, would you like to add anything to that from what you've seen on the ground of what you've been working on thus far?
Could you please repeat the question? Sorry.
So the question was regarding the local level. What experiences, what tangible experiences have you seen that you implemented?
I think in the Latvia case, as we were working a lot together with the Latvia case, it was very interesting to see that the framework and the toolbox for them was at the beginning were two different things, and now things are coming more together, and I think this is really helpful to also provide this conceptual framework and also practical framework. So when things really come together, I think this is really helpful for the region, also that we experienced while working together.
Thank you very much for that. Would anyone like to add something to that? Perhaps Reinhard or Datse? Okay, I do have a follow-up question for you. So how does the identification of key risks contribute to a more effective development of climate risk assessments?
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Perfectly.
So the key risk step is about prioritizing action. The risk analysis and the toolbox would lead to great and comprehensive estimates of what risks are in a certain municipality, community, or region. Then we emphasize this key risk step is really then about tackling that question, okay, where should we look, what should we tackle, given limited resources as always there are, what to take forward, like focusing on flood risk, heat risk, to health or other risks. So it's really about that, identifying what's urgent and what's severe. Severe would be the level of risk. Urgency would also be thinking about what actions to take and that bring risks down, but what actions to take also while harnessing benefits. For example, if there's a new regional development plan being constructed, so there may be benefits like bringing risk in and making sure risks are properly accounted for. Or maybe if you take action on risk now, business may be attracted to move into these places that have been risk-prone before actions are taken. So there's also opportunities that can be considered. Mostly the project is about the challenges, but there's also certain opportunities, and that's what we're emphasizing. Thanks.
I think that's very important to make. That's it.
Yeah, may I add,
jump in.
Actually, it depends on the knowledge that you are right now. Because, for example, in our case, we wanted to start with something quite simple, something that we understand. Maybe we already know the results that will come out of the toolbox, for example, but we need to start somewhere, and while starting with a climate risk that is quite obvious, it's easier to start, and then we will get first thoughts of how this all works together, and then we can go into deeper other, for example, sectors or fields and talk to other people, other organizations, and find out what they want, because based on the field where you are, you will start there, and then you can deep further, and when you will have the first example how to actually do it.
And I was also wondering, because we mentioned that there's such a diverse set of issues, of risks, environmental risks. How do you make sure that that the project is inclusive to all these various stakeholders? There's many different stakeholders involved, and how do you engage all these communities in developing a comprehensive risk assessment? I would say perhaps Reinhard could answer the question, or Michaela, sorry.
Yeah, I think I can answer this. So as you could see in the framework presentation, the participatory processes are really central should be really central to each step. So the regions themselves need to make sure that the relevant stakeholders and groups are included, and they should be included in every single step, in some steps more, in some steps less, but this is really up to the regions to decide who they are and to bring them in.
And perhaps speaking about including the local stakeholders, are there perhaps, Tatsu, maybe you could answer this question, some tips or best practices on this front, on how you really can engage that at local level?
Yeah, this is not an easy question, because it depends also on the knowledge that they have. Because there are a lot of people that we have to talk with them what is actually climate, that climate is changing, that this is real, and so on. But I think the good first example may help. If we analyze some part of climate risk that was obvious, and we had, for example, in Latvia a year ago, we had a huge hail event, and if we're talking about people, talking with people about the hail, they all saw that this is real, that it damaged a lot of things, and if we are analyzing something that was real a few years ago, everybody is understanding it, and we can base our studies on this event, and afterwards showing other fields, other organization, this case study, then we can convince them to jump in and do their own climate risk assessment.
So in essence, it's also about practical things, in the sense that you see what's going on when there is such a major event, weather-wise, let's say. And I was thinking, if Anna's still online, from a research perspective, how is it challenging sometimes to translate something that is more research-based into language that at local level is also understood and evaluated as it should be?
Absolutely, and it's been really interesting to follow the meetings these past 2 days and really hear the experience of the pilots. So while we, from a academic perspective, develop a framework which is built on the robust scientific knowledge, it has very strong concepts, and it's an important basis on which we can base a high-quality process that we can share in Europe. We need to understand what it means on the ground to implement climate risk assessment, what the pressures are on the agencies that are undertaking this work. Obviously, as I was saying before, it involves damages and consequences to people. So this is a different dimension to the one that we're used to working in an academic context. And so I think CLIMAAX is really suited to build a new way of working for us. In a way, we have to define our academic work from the perspective of what the implications are locally and in practice according to the agencies and actors that are working on the ground. So, we know that the climate is changing and we're facing even new and novel conditions. And what's important is that we're facing critical risks already today. And there's a lot to be done in terms of catching up in a way with the pace of climate change. And that's something that we need to do both from a research or academic side and the local context in which actors are having to work. So this project is really unique in that way. I think it'd be wonderful when we have participants coming in through the cluster funding that we can implement this new way of working.
Thank you very much for your answer on that, and I think indeed you're right. It's such a lovely project, and this is also why we organized this webstival, because there's so many stakeholders, and we would like to connect all stakeholders together in half a day, really. So I think that really embodies that. So thank you very much for that input, Anna. There is, I think we have a bit of time. There is one question about the open call still, so I think it's good if we address that before we go on a short break. The question is, apart from the regulation to develop a climate risk assessment that needs to be in English, the gender equality plan needs to be in English as well?
Everything needs to be translated, but of course you have to show us the original gender equality plan and then your translation. So yeah, it has to be translated.